There's a great appetite, and I mean a very strong appetite, for background checks, and I think we can bring up background checks like we've never had before. I think both Republican and Democrat are getting close to a bill to doing something on background checks.
Now, that was the president in the wake of the mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton that claimed 31 American lives just a couple weeks ago. If it sounds familiar, it should. This is the president after the school shootings in Parkland, Florida, a year and a half ago.
I will tell you, background checks. I've called many senators last night, many congressmen. They're into doing background checks that they wouldn't be thinking about maybe 2 weeks ago. We're going to do strong background checks.
So after Parkland, the president also talked tough when it came to the NRA. Again, our president.
Some of you people are petrified of the NRA. You can't be petrified. And they do have great power. I agree with that. They have great power over you people. They have less power over me. I don't need it. What do I need? But I tell you, they are well-meaning. And I said to them, very nice, I said, fellas, we got to do something.
So that was then, and this is now. Just yesterday, the president appeared to be parroting NRA talking points and also backtracking on those promises of background checks.
We have very, very strong background checks right now, but we have sort of missing areas and areas that don't complete the whole circle. And we're looking at different things, and I have to tell you that it is a mental problem, and I've said it 100 times, it's not the gun that pulls the trigger, it's the person. The Democrats are not strong at all in the Second Amendment. I would say they're weak on the Second Amendment, and we have to be careful of that. We have to be very careful about that. You know, they call it the slippery slope, and all of a sudden everything gets taken away. We're not going to let that happen.
So remember all that tough talk about the NRA and that he doesn't need them? Well, the president, we've now learned, had a conversation with the NRA head, Wayne LaPierre. The Atlantic reporting that LaPierre was totally against expanding background checks, and that's all it took, apparently, to sway the president. Then today, the president confusing matters even more and, once again, blaming a common political foe. Here he is on the White House lawn.
We have areas where we can close, and, for instance, we did fix NICS last time. We have a lot of background checks right now. Gun owners can tell you that, others can tell you that. But there are certain weaknesses, we want to fix the weaknesses, and I think that'll happen. Let's see what happens. I'm concerned that no matter what we agree to, when we get there, I'm concerned the Democrats will say, oh, well, we now want this, and you know, it's a slippery slope.
For what it's worth, the American public doesn't believe it's a slippery slope or is interested in these partisanship that you heard from the commander-in-chief. Look at the poll numbers. Tell me any issue that you see the American public feeling this way on. Well, more than 90% of the American public, they support background checks for all gun buyers. And by the way, that includes 90% of gun owners. Well, my next guest, Manuel Oliver, he lost his son Joaquin in the Parkland school shootings. He's also founder of a group called Change the Ref, whose mission it is to raise awareness about mass shootings and to reduce the influence of the aforementioned NRA. Manuel, thank you for rejoining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me here.
I gave that whole setup here just to give context, because this is not the first rodeo where the president has had to deal with mass shootings and its aftermath, but you were one of those families who I'm sure looked to the president and say, what will be different going forward? And you heard the promises, you heard him going after his fellow members of his own cabinet saying he wasn't afraid of the NRA and he was going to take it to them. Did you believe him then, and do you believe him now that he has any interest really in closing these loopholes in terms of who can actually buy a gun?
No, of course we don't believe what he's saying. It's funny how everyone is trying to understand what he means. He's not making it any easy for us because he says one thing today and one thing tomorrow. However, we, the Olivers, since day one, by meaning the day that we lost our beautiful son Joaquin, never thought that this president will be able to fix this. And the reason for that is very simple. And the whole debate comes down to he's getting money from the NRA, a lot of money that he will also need next year. So he's not capable of having guts enough to go ahead, talk to the NRA, and demand that lives are more important than any gun manufacturer or any organization like the NRA, which is only making money and confusing people with the content of the Second Amendment.
So obviously, you've learned more about this issue than you ever wanted to, given the tragedy at Parkland. But explain this to me, because this is the part I don't understand. If the vast majority of any group's membership and 90-some-odd% of the American public, including overwhelmingly gun owners, want something, where's the political risk in calling for it? I don't understand why, and I'm not being naive, the NRA is opposed to this, because at least they contain the change. The American public wants assault weapons bans. They want to go much further than this. Why not move ahead on universal background checks, given how popular it is, and even practically if you're the NRA? Can you explain to me the opposition? I don't get it.
I'll do my best. I think that it's a whole political debate that needs to be there for both parties, and this could take forever. Let me go over one thing here. This is not a new problem. This is not a new issue. We had a blue Senate, a blue Congress, a blue, red. We've been changing these colors from one election to the other. What we have right now is just another Senate that is not open to move forward with these common issues that we all agree. You just said it. 97% of Americans are okay with universal background checks. Gun owners, most of them are also agreeing with this. So there's a political debate that needs to stay there. The NRA endorsed these politicians. Everything is about the money here, my friend. And this is how America has been running for years. However, now we have a youth movement that understands this better than anyone before. I'm so glad, not being young enough, but still being a member of this movement, that things are going to change.
Tell people what Change the Ref aims to do, because it's directly trying to take the NRA out of the conversation.
Absolutely. Change the Ref is an analogy of basketball, who Joaquin loved. And Joaquin told me once, Dad, we need to change that referee. He's not fair enough. Sometimes it's like he's receiving money from the other team. When they shut down my son, I understood what he was trying to say. So when you have a referee that is supposed to make the right calls inside Capitol Hill, and he receives money from the other team, there is no way that you can have a fair game. We've been insisting in this since day one. The problem is in Washington. It's not outside. Society understands exactly what we want, what we need. And it's irrelevant what the president is trying to say, because it's always a lie. So I'm not expecting him to be part of the solution, but part of a problem.
You know, unfortunately, Sandy Hook is not that far from our studios, and we've had a lot of the parents who lost their little kids that day come in here with heartbreaking stories. And I thought if there was ever a moment where change would have to happen, it would be to see those 20 caskets of those first graders, you know, with that message that I think everyone related to. And then we saw Parkland. I think there's a chance this could be different, because people are making this an election issue for next year, not just for the president, but for other elected offices. But do you have any reason for optimism after the tragedy you went through and then nothing changed? Forget all the promises, there was no delivery. Do you have optimism or not right now?
I do. And I show it every day that I go out, and every morning when I wake up, and I see how things already changed during the midterms elections that we had, and how the people just went to vote for mostly representatives that wouldn't be endorsed by the NRA or the gun lobby. So things are changing because we decided that enough was enough. I wish the change could be faster. I regret not being part of this before February 14th. My son was part of this. He wrote letters to gun owners. He wrote letters about what is happening today. So I'm representing, along with my wife Patricia, my son Joaquin, and his legacy. Things are changing. I promise you. We are working hard on this, and we own the truth. And the truth is that we need to save lives. And that is more important than anything else, any other right as a citizen. The first one should be being able to be alive.
Obviously, I couldn't agree with you more, and I hope more and more people are listening, and I hope the people who vote here at least have the courage to do just that. Manuel, thank you so much for your time, as always.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
When we come back, everyone, we have new developments in the case of Daniel Pantaleo. He, the NYPD officer fired over the death of Eric Garner. We have got the very latest. Plus, we will speak with two people who have been actively involved in that case. That right after this.